the angel Gabriel comes to the Blessed Virgin Mary and says, you are to conceive and bear a child, and the child will be called the Son of God, and his father is going to give him the throne of David, his father, and he's going to reign in the house of Jacob forever, and of his reign there shall be no end. So the angel Gabriel, we can divide his little message into two parts. One is Mary being a mother, and the other is what the child, all the greatness of the child. And Mary completely just skips over all the greatness of the child and asks the angel about being a mother. How is this to be, for I know not man? As she was an educated girl, she would have known that if her son is going to be the king of Israel, or reigning in the house of Jacob, that means she's going to be the queen. And if there's no end to his reign, then there's no end to her reign. If Our Lady had high-minded thoughts about herself, she would have skipped this part and asked the angel about this part. Does that mean I'm going to be the queen in the house of Jacob forever? No, she doesn't ask about that. Anyone interested in their own vainglory would have been really excited and asked the details about this part of the message. She skips all that and says, how is this to be, for I know not man? And as we may have mentioned before, that question only makes sense because she had already taken a vow of chastity. And even though she was married to Joseph, their union as husband and wife is not necessary. And we think that he too made a vow of chastity, and their union was still holy because it was mutually made. And so her question is rather a technical one. Is God asking me to give up my vow of chastity? Or is there some other way? And the angel says, yes, there's some other way. The Holy Spirit is going to overshadow you. So then, at the end of the angel's message, then he goes on to say more about the child. At the end of his message, her response is, behold the handmaid of the Lord. She says that, behold the handmaid of the Lord, as is following from the humility that she manifests in the first part. When she says, behold the handmaid of the Lord, she's not saying, oh yeah, I understand what you're saying. I know that this is going to be a great position that you're asking me to fulfill. I really think that I'm able to handle this position. So yeah, bring it on, and I'm going to do everything God asks of me. That would be the proud response. Yeah, I can handle this job. I can handle whatever you can throw at me. Just go ahead, and I'll, I'm the servant of the Lord. No, it's not in that sense. She says, behold the handmaid of the Lord. Behold the handmaid of the Lord. You're asking me to do something that is beyond my imagination to really comprehend. And to this thing that you're asking me to do, I feel totally inadequate. But because it's God asking me to do it, now that you've solved my technical question, I'm simply saying yes without any idea of how this is all going to happen. And she manifested that. We know that that was her attitude because of her Magnificat that she would say just a few days later to Elizabeth. The Lord has looked upon the lowliness, the humility of his handmaid. The humility of his handmaid. He has looked upon. What that means is that Our Lady doesn't feel adequate to the task at hand. She's not puffed up with her own native abilities. She understands that if God is asking her to do something, then he is also giving the ability to fulfill what he's asking. Full stop. There's no other question. There's no other consideration. If God is asking, God is supplying. Behold the handmaid of the Lord. The Rosary, the Holy Rosary, is a prayer of humility. Humility is the foundation of the Rosary. The Rosary doesn't involve reading complicated theology. It doesn't involve sophisticated tasks. It's repetitive and it's simple, and one has to be humble in order to be devoted to it. It demands humility. And this, of course, is an imitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Behold the handmaid of the Lord. So it's by means of the Rosary that we acquire the ever important attitude. It forces us into an attitude of humility and openness and acceptance. Yes, God asks us to do things to which we feel inadequate. If we don't feel inadequate, either we're puffed up with pride or we misunderstand what God is asking. God always asks us things greater than we want or that we think we're capable of or that we're desirous of. God always asks things that are greater. We might say it this way: God's plan for us is greater than our plan for us. Except if we're puffed up with pride, which means we want greater vainglory than God is interested in having anything to do with. God asks us things that we feel inadequate to do, which we should, but our attitude should be the same as Our Lady's. If God is asking, God is supplying. No further questions need be asked. Behold the handmaid of the Lord.